Having the courage and tenacity to begin implies having the courage to succeed. Good morning to one and all present here. Little Flower School, Jamshedpur, is one of the most renowned schools of the city, having traversed on the pathway of distinction and triumph ever since its establishment in 1962. Quantum is Little Flower School's celebrated annual inter-school fest, which offers a medley of competitions that usher in creativity, passion, knowledge, and excellence in scholastic and innovative spheres alike. The primary motive of Quantum is to induce and flourish growth through exposure and learning. Cynosure is Quantum's much-awaited oratory event, a fierce personality battle anteceded by a cogent group discussion has to offer. Before we proceed further, I'd like to introduce our esteemed judges for the day. Our first judge for the day is Mr. Harsh Sinha, a student of International Relations at King's College, London, studying international relations with a major in macroeconomics and foreign policy. Harsh Sinha has won several accolades at international level MUNs, including Cambridge Uni International MUN, and was also slated to be a part of the UK delegation to Harvard World MUN in Tokyo before the COVID crisis forced a postponement. He was also invited to speak at the World Peace Summit, Malaysia 2020, and at the International Youth Project for Minority Rights, Istanbul 2020. Apart from academics, he is a club-level cricketer in England and an avid reader. Our next judge for the day is Ms. Koesha Mukherjee. Trades in tariffs and market access of the trade in goods team, embedded within bilateral trade negotiations and implementations trade policy group. Koesha pursued her post-graduation in development economics and policy from the University of Manchester in the UK. She has recently written her first paper on economics, which has now been published with the top international journal in the UK, Springer Nature. Our next judge is Mrs. Swarnalata Gopalkrishnan. Mrs. Gopalkrishnan has been an educator for over 2 decades. She has done her MSc in Applied Psychology, PG Diploma in Guidance and Counseling, along with B.Ed. She has worked in Jamshedpur, Bangalore, and Chennai as a teacher and in an administrative capacity. Currently, she is heading Shri B.S. Mutha Girls Senior Secondary School, which incidentally is also her alma mater. She enjoys reading, swimming, and while in school, used to play throwball and badminton. And last, Mr. N. Mohan. Mr. N. Mohan is a satisfied Jamshedpur resident, schooling at LFS, engineering at Kharagpur, and Naukri at Tata Steel. Although he is a mechanical engineer by qualification, he set up IT systems in Tata Steel, beginning his career as a programmer and ending his innings in 2017 as chief of IT projects. Customer interaction and man management was his forte, besides having the knack to innovate when designing IT solutions for business problems. He believes in giving time for social work and is involved in 2 NGOs, Spardha, which enriches sports awareness among the mass, and Mati, which aims to build model villages near Bundi. To all our judges today, we are beyond thrilled that you could join us on this fine morning. About the event, the final event of Cynosure is a personality battle. The participants have been allotted a well-known personality in advance, with the notion that they will become their assigned personality, giving a speech from their perspective, answering questions and defending the personality, all from the perspective of the given personality. Ultimately, Only the participant proven to be superior to the rest will prevail. Best of luck to all the participants. The rules of the event are: participants must ensure that their cameras are switched on at all times. Participants are allotted 1 minute to give a speech from the point of view of the given personality, focusing on, but not limited to, the supremacy of their personality as a well-known leader. The speech will be followed by 3 questions set by the organizers. The time allotted to answer each question is 1 minute. After each question is displayed and read out, an additional 20 seconds will be allowed for framing the answer. At the expiry of the allotted time period, a bell will be rung. Please respect the time limit, neglect of which will lead to penalization. Once the participant has finished their speech and answered the questions, 3 minutes will be allowed for rebuttals by other participants. Participants, if you want to ask a question for rebuttals, write LM for let me in the chat box. Another participant may be allowed to ask one relevant question if there is adequate time left. No cross-questioning is permitted. Please note, lack of volunteering participants to ask questions will lead to that participant scoring full in the marks allotted for rebuttals. Please refrain from mentioning your school name. Do not use inflammatory language. Please maintain proper decorum. Participants, also please note that you will start speaking only once the screen sharing has been stopped. The personalities for today's event are Joseph Stalin, represented by Tucana; Harry Truman, represented by Team Carina; Benito Mussolini, represented by Team Phoenix; Narendra Modi, represented by Team Draco; Donald Trump, represented by Andromeda; Benjamin Netanyahu, represented by Sirius; Winston Churchill, represented by Lupus; and Xi Jinping, represented by Auriga. All the best to the participants. I would now like to call upon the first participant, Team Tucana, who will be representing Joseph Stalin. Tucana, you're free to begin your speech on Joseph Stalin.
Persistence, persistence, persistence. Comrades, the Soviet 23 years ago was nothing but a cold desert that rotted under the monarchy. The Soviet 23 years ago, under the heaps of capitalism, lacked everything. And the Soviet 23 years ago lacked workers' equity and could not reach the heights that it has now. And we are the one who took it where it is now. We led the October Revolution under the influence of the great Lenin, and we brought it where it is. Marxists have stated countless times that the capitalist world would only lead to war. It lacks the equilibrium, it lacks the distribution of resources that the communist world provides. When the Germans attacked us, we persisted, we stood our ground, and we fought. Hence, blood was spilled, but it was all for the liberation of all those capitalist states that looked down upon us. The steel wall loomed over the Europe in the West and in the East, but we still resisted.
Team Tucana, your first question is, Holodomor, also known as the Great Soviet Famine of 1932 to 1933, is considered to be a man-made famine engineered by the Soviet government, headed by Joseph Stalin against the rural farmers of Ukraine. Historians have accused Stalin's policies on industrialization as a major cause behind the famine. How do you defend yourself against these accusations, Mr. Stalin?
The thing is that when the thing that started, the industrialization, was very important. Between the World War I and World War II, we lacked the resources to even fight in the war. We did not have any kind of money that we needed to for arteries and other stuff. But the rapid industrialization that happened in those 5 years gave us the liberty to fight in the war and defeat the Germans. Of course, the famine caused a lot of death toll, but if we did not have that revolution, the industrialization revolution in Russia, it would lead to the death of people in the hands of Germans. And that revolution is what led us to defeat those Germans, because not only Russia, but all the other countries that was under the Germans would also have been dead by now because of how bad the Germans were. And this kind of steps is what we should be taking, because if the famine was a side effect of the industrialization revolution, but the revolution was needed to stop the war. Hence, it is required for us to make decisions that would be good for the future.
Team Tucana, your second question is, in the Battle of Stalingrad in 1942, Germany and her allies fought the Soviet Union for control of the city of Stalingrad in southern Russia. Stalin, in response to the Nazi operations in Stalingrad, issued the famous Order number 227, which declared that panic makers and cowards must be liquidated on spot. What, according to you, Mr. Stalin, makes this order to be in the best interest of your fellow countrymen?
Russia, my motherland, has always been one that resisted. We have stood our ground. We have had people who want to fight the cause that we believe in. Supposedly a crowd of people that say that they do not want to fight this battle, that they want to die like cowards and they don't want to save our motherland, and they are not needed. It is for the best interest of our country, because if they don't fight, they are going to die anyway. Then die fighting at least. It's very much saying that you are killing people, but you will be killed in the hands of the enemy. You have the best interest of my people is to fight the Germans. It is what is needed. The Germans have rose till the Moscow lines, and we still stood there. It may have taken us some time to get there, but if we did not do that, then it would lead to fascism even in Russia, which would be even worse than it was before. Hence, it is best to stray away the people who are causing these troubles.
Okay, Mr. Stalin, your last question from the organizers is, imagine that instead of a dictator, you are the democratically elected leader of your country. You are on the verge of losing the forthcoming elections due to a gradual decline in your popularity over your last term. What election strategy would you follow to gain back your following and attract the citizens into re-electing?
The strategy I would follow is that of fear, I would say. It has been in my deepest, it is my characteristic to let everyone know of my supremacy. Many people frown upon this kind of strategy, that how can you establish a country with fear? But even with 25 years of my rule, it is what made me stand there. The fear I don't mean in a way of killing people, the fear that I would get things done. And if you don't elect me, it is your own trouble. The greatness that people see is because of fear. You do not respect the leader because of the things you do. You respect the leader because you are scared of them. You create diversions, and hence I would be making myself the larger than life person, and I would make them fear me, because it is what is needed to control such a big nation.
Okay, team Tucana, now the window for rebuttals is now open. Team Sirius, you may ask your question.
Thank you so much for the recognition. My question to Joseph Stalin is that in your reign, you have made this very commanding quote that stuck with your audience. That is, death of a man is a tragedy and death of many is a statistic. So as a leader, it's our responsibility to ensure that the safety of our citizens is our topmost priority. However, you have made it your life's mission to eradicate the most educated strata of your society. So my question is very simple. Do you prioritize power over patriotism or the other way around?
I do not prioritize the patriotism as people. When people resist the idea of doing what is best for the nation, they are not patriotic. They are not what we need in our country. We need people who make efforts in taking our cause further. If those educated people that you say bring up statistics and fear the boogeyman, then they are not educated at all. They said that we could not fight the Germans, that we would lose the battle. Did we? We did not. That is the thing. If you give up so soon, then what are you going to do in the future? And hence, I don't think that people who resist the cause need to be even the part of the picture at all.
If I have asked a follow-up question, can I?
Team serious, no cross questioning is allowed.
Thank you.
May I ask my next question?
The time allotted for rebuttals has been exhausted. Now we will move on to the next personality. Team Draco, you may ask another question. We have enough time left.
Excuse me, ma'am. Actually, ma'am, I texted after Team Serious, so could you please consider my question?
One second. Actually, we will consider Team Draco. Team Draco has texted.
May I?
Draco,
Okay,
please put forward your question.
All right. So, Mr. Stalin, I have a question for you. How effective is the Gulag in implementing your ideology of forced labor being more effective than free labor, or in short, socialism over capitalism?
Capitalism in the monarch, and even as it is now, has always been about taking the resources away from the people. Think of it as an example, like British people, they establish their colonies in different places. They take away the resources from those places. Now those places lack those resources. Now those places create a war. This causes hostile camps. This battle of resources that goes on between capitalist countries is what is the main problem. In socialism, we have this thing where socialism has this thing where we don't fight for the resources, where we provide the equal resources that is needed. Workers in the Stalin age were paid based on how much work they did. Hence, they got the amount of money that they made through their labor. The labor is their own. The labor there is their own. I think I misheard your question. I'm so sorry about that. Can you please repeat it one more time?
Participants, you do not have time to repeat the question. We will move on to the next personality. The next personality is Harry Truman, represented by Team Karina. Karina, you are free to proceed with your speech.
Hello, is my voice audible?
Please switch on your camera.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible and visible.
Okay. Greetings from the accidental president of the USA. I am Harry Truman, the 33rd president of this powerful and revolutionary nation. Upon the sudden demise of President Roosevelt, I felt like the moon, the stars, and all the planets had fallen on me. It was a Herculean task to step into the legacy of the presidentship in the midst of political uncertainty. But that did not stop me from taking some of the most courageous and controversial decisions in the American history, and leading my country through the final stages of World War II, the tense early years of the Cold War, and guiding the American economy from a wartime to a peacetime footing. Because at the end, I was responsible for the fate of my country and its people. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Truman, your first question is, in 1947, Truman signed the National Security Act, which authorized the creation of the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. Many countries have accused the CIA for conducting numerous espionage operations against foreign countries, calling them unethical. Americans, on the other hand, believe that the CIA is actually useful for enforcing peace in foreign countries. What do you have to say against these accusations, Mr. Truman?
Against these accusations, I would like to say that we have always been adamant to curbing communist parties and aggressions, and we have considered the foreign countries in establishing peace. So the CIA has been considered in taking in taking an account of the peace that it will establish in other countries, and the accusations, I call it the false accusations. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Truman, your next question is, after the defeat of Germany in World War II, Harry Truman had said that the US was about to use a destructive weapon against the Japanese. The weapon in the statement referred to the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki later on. According to you, what could have been the reasoning that forced you to take such a drastic step?
The reason which forced me to take such a drastic step was the casualties the Americans have to face. We have to lose the lives of several Americans. The Japanese were adamant to capture and expand the communist aggressions in the South Asia. They also made Britishers, Americans, Filipinos, Indonesians the victims of their aggressions. And the Japanese had the very brutality to execute anyone, make them experiments in the universities, cut their lungs out, put their organs on the display, and that forced me to take such a decision to finally stop the war after Germany surrendered. Germany surrendered to us unconditionally. So that was the final stop to the World War II. Thank you.
Mr. Truman, your last question is, instead of being the President of the United States, if you were to be the leader of a developing country like India, what are some measures that you would take to convert it into a developed country?
At the time when I was the President of the United States, the Britain was somewhat obliged to us. They were indebted to us. And if I were to take some measures to rule the country like India, I would definitely economically expand India, because today's in generation we can see that one of the drastic situations of India is that there is no employment, the GDP is low. So I would definitely work to for the betterment of the economy of India, and also the education. I think we are more concentrated on the bookish knowledge, but I think practically, experimentally, we have to expand more. I would take such measures to expand the mind of the people rather than constricting them like the British did. They took away from the power of thinking from us. I would definitely expand the power of thinking. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Truman. Participants, please note the window for rebuttals is now open. Team Draco, you may put forth your question.
Thank you. Mr. Truman, your speech was well appreciated. My question to you is, the attacks you had on the socialist state and the Cold War, and the way the nuclear warfare on Japan went, wouldn't you agree that it was more of an imperialistic move than simply a move that you resorted to just for American development and resistance?
I think it was not only restricted to American development or for saving the American people. I think Japanese, as I've said, Japanese were also executing Britons, the Britishers, the Indians. In fact, the Indians were the part of Britain at that time, and Indonesians, Filipinos. I think I wanted to curb that aggressions. I wanted to finally stop the world war and put a narrative in the world that atomic bomb. I think the next war would be atomic war, and how drastic it is, how devastating a war could be. That was the final stop.
Andromeda, you may ask your question.
Greetings, Sir Harry Truman. Good to see you alive. Well, dropping those atomic bombs was a war crime led by you. Having every idea about what an atomic bomb can do to any people who do not belong to the military area, why did you still decide to bomb those places and cause such a drastic destruction, which is even persistent even today?
Okay. So the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki resulted in the death of 1 million of the Japanese, but the Japanese, on the other hand, resulted in the killings of 65 millions of people, including the Indonesians, Filipinos, Chinese, and British Indians, and Americans too. They used to make use of the bodies, the alive people, in the experiments in the universities that they had. The brutalities of the Japanese cannot be justified, and it was even the Nazi supremacy and the Japanese supremacies was somewhat equal. And if Nazis were the brutal creatures, the evils in the Second World War, the Japanese were somewhat equal to that in the South Asian countries. So that is the cause. That was the reason why I bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, to finally bring the war to an end. And I think the world is indebted to us. Thank you.
Team Origa, you may ask your question.
Greetings to Mr. Truman for being with us here today. Mr. Truman, you have time and again mentioned that dropping the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were a necessary evil and a decisive move that you had to take. Will you allegedly call Oppenheimer as a crybaby scientist when he said he had blood on his hands because he developed those bombs? Do you think, as a leader of the greatest country in the world, you could have said such a thing? Don't you think you should have taken responsibility for that instead of just calling a scientist who felt bad for the destruction of human race?
Feeling bad for the destruction of the human race, I think I have already acknowledged that in some of my speeches, in stating that the next wars that are going to happen in the world will be the atomic wars. And the presidents in the coming years have also acknowledged the fact that yes, we have devastated the humanity, and I think the world need to see peace. So the fact that I had the bloods on my hand has already been acknowledged by several presidents in the coming years, and we have taken accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Team Karina. Participants, please note you will only write LM in the chat once I have said that the window for rebuttals is now open. Next, we will move on to Team Phoenix, representing Benito Mussolini. Team Phoenix, are you here in the meeting? Team Phoenix? Judges, please note that despite several messages, Team Phoenix has not joined the meeting and hence will be marked absent. We will move on to the next personality. Team Draco, that will be representing Narendra Modi. Draco, please begin with your speech.
I'd like to ensure if I'm audible. Am I audible?
Yes, Team Draco, you're audible and visible.
The past few years have admittedly been very growth-oriented for India. Paradigms have been shifted ever since majority of Indian citizens voted for BJP in 2014. Our party sets clear priorities, and if not successfully, we managed to achieve imperative milestones. Greetings, judges and excellencies. I am Narendra Damodar Modi, and I am deeply grateful for the opportunity to converse with all of you present here. Steps such as demonetization, GST, and INC were undertaken to reform corporate India. India has exponentially reduced black money usage. GST has been outstandingly successful in reducing India's supply chain costs and is the first uniform tax system in the 70 years of India's independence. Amidst the pandemic, we focused on ensuring livelihoods for the bottom of the pyramid people. All reforms and digital advancements made earlier proved to be extremely useful in these difficult times. We extended rations and minimum income support to 80 crore Indians, which wouldn't have been possible without Digital India and India's tax. Our housing program has also been an outstanding success in bringing dignity to crores of Indians. Strategic relations with Japan, Vietnam, USA, Iran, Australia are also coming in very handy now, and I would like to believe that India has a very prudent foreign policy. I would like to end my speech with prayers and promising support for the people of Afghanistan who have been affected by various conflicts over the past 40 years. Thank you.
Mr. Modi, your first question is, BJP, led by Narendra Modi, has been accused of discrediting the media. According to the opposition, any criticism against the ministers in the press is brushed off with the narrative that journalist has probably been paid by the opposition party and must be anti-national. Such attempts against the validity of the press have garnered scrutiny. What is your response to this?
India has been a sovereign ever since it has been independent from the British, and as far as possible, the Indian government, whoever the ruling party was, has provided the freedom of speech to every media platform possible. And we understand that there may have been lapses in doing so, and the only reason we have curbed some media coverages are because they may have been insensitive to people. Moving on.
Okay, Mr. Modi, your next question is, the opposition leaders of India have criticized your handling of the devastating second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. One such politician has opined, a prime minister who should have stood with the people while they were languishing outside hospitals in need of medical aid during the pandemic was busy declaring victory over the pandemic prematurely and playing political one-upmanship during assembly elections in West Bengal, Assam, and Kerala. What is your reply to this criticism?
If this politician was asking if we take responsibility for the second wave of the pandemic, we do not. We do not take responsibility for that. What we do take responsibility for is the aftermath of the second wave. We had been working on our foreign relations. We had been working on getting as many vaccines. We had been working on getting as much as medical facilities as possible. And in order to avoid these sort of circumstances again, with the third wave incoming, we have also been taking many measures.
Mr. Modi, your last question is, if it so happens that your country is on the brink of a civil war, how would you, the Prime Minister of the largest democracy of the world, deal with the situation and find a solution to end the crisis?
India has been a conflicted region, and it has been in a conflict. It will continue to be in a conflict for perhaps the next few decades. We have been trying to erase that, and we understand if there are if there are grievances amongst various sects of people, various castes and religions, and we agree to that. And India has been peaceful and will remain to be peaceful, and we would do our best to curb anything that would lead to a civil war as we have done. Thank you.
Team Origa, you may put forth your question.
Mr. Modi, India is seen as a land of unity and in diversity and a land of unparalleled secularism. Well, you, Mr. Modi, I feel are extremely incapable of keeping up to this legacy because you have time and again highlighted the social divide in the society, and you are accused of incite not only supporting but also inciting the riots in Delhi 2000 in 2020. I would like to know your views about that.
First of all, I would like to dismiss any such accusation. And it feels rather ridiculous hearing this sort of claim from another autocrat who is claiming that I am being a supremacist when China has been dealing with the Uyghur Muslim crisis for the past 2 years, and well, it's just difficult to hear that question coming from you.
Okay, Modi. Team Lupus, you may ask your question.
Thank you, ma'am, for the recognition. Mr. Narendra Modi, first of all, namaskar. I would further go on the topic of coronavirus that is still roaming around. Didn't you lax on your part regarding the COVID restrictions, despite knowing that the Kumbh Mela may be the second most important bearer of the second wave of COVID-19, and scientists predicted that? But you still allowed the Kumbh Mela in Allahabad, and it was because of the permission given by the central government that lakhs people in thousands in numbers, they gathered in Kumbh Mela, and that led to the 4 lakh hike in cases of COVID-19. What's your say on this? I mean, isn't the failure at the part of the central government, especially you being the Prime Minister?
India has been a very religious country, as all of you know, and if religion would, I do agree to this. It was a lapse on my part, and I take full responsibility for that. However, our excuse for this, if you would take it as one, it would be that India has been a religious country, and this would act as a sliver of hope for a majority section of the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Team Draco. The next personality is...
I'm sorry, I had a moderator. We are all in our questions for after the questions are over, and it seems like the ones that are coming in between are getting recognized first. If you could please, if we could also do it before, then that would be convenient.
Please repeat. You're inaudible, Team Sirius.
All our messages for LM and asking questions came in after the 3 questions were over for the personality, while the ones that came in between are getting recognized first. So if you could please recognize our questions, so it would be...
No, this is not true. Only the people who have written LM after we have asked them to write so are being recognized, Team Sirius. Moving on to the next personality. Team Andromeda is now going to represent Donald Trump. Team Andromeda, you may begin with your speech.
Hello, hi. How's it going, people? Namaste. I learned that when I visited India. Now let's make it quick. So in order to fight this Chinese virus, we closed up the greatest economy in the world. We donated 8,700 ventilators to other nations while our own people were suffering. We had around $142 million vaccination distributed already, while other countries were still struggling to even make the vaccine. I have elevated and solidified the India and US relations. Greetings to my dear friend Prime Minister Modi. I moved the US Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem and normalized their relation with the Middle Eastern countries. Well, not boasting, but If I begin to talk about all the things that I've done for America and the world, it would take all day. So I'd end it right here. Let's make America great again. God bless America. Thank you.
Mr. Trump, your first question is, the Paris Climate Accords were drafted in 2015 to strengthen the global response to the threat of climate change. In 2017, the United States, under the leadership of President Trump, became the first nation to formally withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement. What is your primary justification behind this move?
Oh, Biden joined again. Well, the very reason why I had withdrawn myself from Paris Agreement was that there wasn't actually the work being done. It was only an agreement and people were sitting and not doing real things. For environment, well, my heart goes out to Greta Thunberg's work. I am a great environmentalist as well. I have, within the span of 2 years, I've had the air pollutants reduced by 7% from 2017 to 2019. Then again, 586 million tons of coal were reduced under my rule, which has never been done in history. So working towards climate is more important than being in some agreement. And I personally felt that their agreement was not actually working towards it. So I decided to do it on my own part. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Trump, your second question is, the family separation policy presented by Trump as a zero-tolerance approach led to the separation of more than 6,000 children from their parents and guardians with whom they had illegally entered the US. The adults were deported and the children were kept under the supervision of the US Department of Health and Human Services. Why, according to you, was this policy necessary for the common good of the United States?
Oh, I've been asked this a lot of times. So, our country, for the protection of our country, I'll do whatever. If you are a fair human being, enter with the legal rights. You're allowed to. Nobody is stopping you. But you decide to come inside and reside in the United States of America illegally. The illegal immigrants. And we did it for the safety of America, to save the people of America, because we do not know how or what a character a person has or possesses. So depending on the safety of America, I took the decision to bring out the immigrant bans to protect the citizens of America.
Mr. Trump, your third question is, in light of the recent takeover of Afghanistan by Taliban, where do you think the world, particularly the United States and its NATO allies, went wrong? How would you like the UN and the nations of the world to deal with the Taliban crisis?
This day had to come. And it's very embarrassing to see the United States of America having run away from Afghanistan in such a way, leaving thousands of people in Afghanistan. My heart is all with Afghanistan, and I'm very, very, very ashamed of the behavior which has been put forward by the USA militants and leaving all those women, all those children in despise. Thank you.
Participants, the window for rebuttal is now open. Team Sirius, please put forth your question.
Thank you so much. Greetings, Mr. Donald Trump. It's an honor to be asking this question to you, but I would take my chance here. I think it's the essence of your constitution to ensure that there is peaceful transfer of power from one president to the other. However, your supporters have proven otherwise in multiple occasions, whether it be the Capitol Hill attacks or the protests or the way they conduct their protests. So my question to you is that I'm not going to make this specific to just one incident. We have seen this happening many times. And after all this, all you seem to do for your supporters is tweet a bunch of funny tweets, which you, according to you, make situations better. Well, truth be told, it does not. So my question to you, Mr. Donald Trump, is that why do you always make a joke out of every complex predicament, every attack in which your opposition is being hurt? You just seem to encourage it and make a joke out of it. Why do you at multiple occasions continue to do that?
I didn't know being truthful and straightforward is a joke to everybody or funny to everyone, but never mind. The left media has always been biased and all those accusations are false. Let me tell you, were you there when such things happened? No. And those accusations, how are you so confident about the media giving you the true narrative about every situation being happening in the United States of America? None of them are sure about it. So I do not make a joke out of everyone. I respect everyone. I respect my supporters and those who do not support me. And there are a lot of injustice being happened, and I strongly condemn everything. But being truthful or straightforward is a mockery to someone, then that's their problem, not my problem. Thank you.
We have time for one more question. Team Lupus, please put forth your question.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the recognition. Well, it's an honor and displeasure to just question Mr. Donald Trump. I think you were the reason why the US Capitol was attacked by a mob of your supporters upon the incitement to attack the Capitol and false allegations to foul play in the presidential elections. I mean, this is the thing just related to you all the time. Now, give me a direct answer to this. Why do you always put your presidency over everything, over your country, over the democracy, over the citizens, over the people? You are truly an undemocratic political leader. Please explain this. I mean, we all are just waiting for this answer.
I'm sorry to say, but this election happened through a democratic process, and I'm the president, so obviously I'll portray my presidency over everything. Now, looking forward to your correction, there are incite violence happening everywhere. And there are protests, be it peaceful or unpeaceful protests happening everywhere. And if a particular mob in a particular city goes violence, it's none of my problem. Obviously, I'm going to hold them accountable. And there have been many people who have been held accountable for all the deeds which they did in the US Capitol Hill. But you cannot blame the president of the country for the violence happening in a small part of the country. The president is not going to be present everywhere. All I can do is control the police, the NPA, and the NDA and the CIA agency to investigate the matter and hold them accountable who are responsible for every atrocities happening around the country. I'm just the president. I can control them. I cannot make things happen the certain way. I cannot make things happen the way I want it to. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Mr. Trump. Now we will move on to the next personality. We have Benjamin Netanyahu, represented by Team Sirius.
Thank you so much for the recognition. Greetings to one and all present here. I stand here, Benjamin Netanyahu, in the name of millions of citizens who have chosen to stand tall and not to bow their heads. I stand here as an elected public servant backed by millions of Israeli citizens who decided to vote for the political party that is headed by me. And every Israeli citizen who decided to vote for the right wing technically has some connection with the fact that my ideals make Israel the country that it is. In every public role, as the Israeli minister in Washington, as the Israeli ambassador to the UN, as the foreign minister, as the finance minister, as the defense minister, as the prime minister of Israel, for 15 years combined with all these portfolios, I've had the privilege of acting night and day to uphold the prestige of my country. Just recently, we bought vaccines in Israel, and I'm really proud of the fact that I was able to end my presidency, ensuring that Israel was not gravely affected by the coronavirus. And now that I've had this opportunity, I could go on and on and on about my supremacy, but I would like to take this opportunity to ask questions to the rest of my fellow world leaders here, the ones that are alive and not. That it's very important that we ensure the safety of our citizens. However, I didn't get a chance to ask this to Narendra Modi, but I don't think I'll get a chance again. So I'm going to use my time here to ensure that my question is to him. It's very sad that the Prime Minister continues to forget that A, he's in a secular economy, and B, it's not good for him to use tax money to make new parliament buildings or to make statues that reach.
Team CS, your time is up.
If I could just say one more line. So I would just like to end by saying that it's important that we uphold the prestige of our economies and not disregard the constitution. And my question is straightforward. I do not demean the minorities in my country, and I hope no other world leader does that too. Thank you.
Your first question is, Benjamin Netanyahu has been indicted on charges of bribery, corruption, fraud, and breach of trust. The cases involved are known as 1,000, 2,000, and 4,000, which include the illegal transaction of 700,000 shekels from international billionaires. As a result of this indictment, Netanyahu is legally required to relinquish all his ministry portfolios other than that of the Prime Minister. How would you re-win the faith of your citizens and prove that you are still the best possible leader for your country, despite any allegations of such kind?
Thank you so much for this question. This is probably the 90th time I'm answering this, but I would say what I've said before is that with the case 1,000, 2,000, and 4,000, I have repeatedly said that I have got nothing to do with this. I'm cooperating with the government and going to court to prove myself innocent. I have denied this before, and I will deny it till I'm proven guilty, which I think is very unlikely. Thank you.
Mr. Netanyahu, your second question. You have always advocated for settling Jews in Palestine, and just this year ordered the building of 800 homes for Israeli settlers in Palestine. What is your plan for the Palestinians who live on the land that you want to be settled and annexed by Israelis?
Like I mentioned in my speech, that I do not take minorities for granted. I have a very important place in my heart for Jews in my country as well as in Palestine. I have been all across the globe saying how my love, professing my love for Jews, and I'm going to do that over and over again. And no matter what my political relations are with any other country, I am going to ensure that Jews are taken care of, whether it be in my homeland or somebody else's, because that's the kind of person I am, and I'm going to uphold my country's prestige by ensuring that Jews are not disregarded. Thanks.
Mr. Netanyahu, your next question. Netanyahu served as the defense minister of Israel before serving as the prime minister. If your country's army was to fall down to a neighboring country's army, what are some immediate steps that you would take to handle the situation with the experience you have as the former defense minister?
That's a very good question. I think people tend to forget that I was a defense minister as well, so I'm really flattered that somebody's asking this question. I think Israel by itself has one of the strongest armies in the world. So hypothetically, of course, I'm going to answer that question, but I think that's quite unlikely that it would fall. But if that happens, then I'm going to use my years of experience by ensuring that we do not resort to violence, because historically, these are some mistakes that Israel has made before my time. So I would probably ensure the fact that the Israeli army becomes stronger, and it's not always through violence that we can win wars. It's sometimes just mere pressure without taking lives. Because in 2021, I might not be the prime minister anymore. However, I do still hold my time as defense minister very close to my heart, and that experience would 100% ensure the fact that I ensure that Israel does not fall. Thank you.
Participants, the window for rebuttal is now open. Team Draco, you may put forth your question.
Thank you for that, and your speech and your question was very much appreciated, Mr. Netanyahu. My question, however, is if you do not discriminate with minorities and if you do not have a minority complex just in general, why were the Palestinians denied of any COVID vaccines at the beginning of the second wave in Israel in January 2021?
Thank you so much for your question. Like I've said before, that there have been political unrest between these two, between my country and Palestine, and I think a lot of people blame it on me or the fact that I've been in office for 15 combined in different portfolios for 15 years now. But the truth is that this goes back to medievalism. This problem goes back to a century, and it's very convenient for people in today's world to use social media to blame the current leaders. However, this is not a 2021 or for that matter, even a 2000s problem. This goes back to the 90s and 1900s. And the fact that I did what I did was for my country, as I've told you before, that we were able to provide vaccines and control the situation in my country. And if I had to make that decision again to ensure and put Israelis first, I would do that a million times again. Thank you.
Team Tucana, you may ask your question.
Yeah, so I would like to ask that you stated in your own speech that it is very bad for Narendra Modi to support a group of people instead of the whole country in which he is in charge. With that said, Israel is occupying the land of Palestine. You say that it is important for Israel, the people of Israeli, the Jews, to occupy the land in Palestine, but it has already been taking away a lot of part of the land of Palestine. So isn't it a bit hypocritical for you to say that you are caring for the people when you're just taking more from them?
Okay, I would like to answer this question by first educating my fellow world leaders that how Israel and Palestine started in the first place was because of the British. And it's very easy for us, like I said, to blame the current leaders for that. However, this is just a resurfaced problem. It's not one that has been invented in today's world. It's just being resurfaced and being continued. Had people done the research, it would have been clear that Israel-Palestine is not because of me solely. So I would like to answer your question by saying that yes, because of the situation that was created, because of medievalism, repeating it for the second time, because of medievalism, I took the steps that I did, and I would take them again because it has ensured that Israel is above everybody. I care for Palestine. In fact, I care for Palestine more than the leaders of Palestine do themselves. However, because of the decisions that were made, I had to take the steps that I did. And I think it's sad that all of these lives have been taken. However, this was the only way that we could deal with it at the moment, at least. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Netanyahu. Now we will move on to the next personality. Our next personality is Winston Churchill, represented by Team Lupus.
Am I audible and visible, ma'am?
Yes, Lupus, you can go ahead.
A very good morning to one and all. I am Winston Churchill, and meet my friend, the cigar. I'm a proud leader of a proud country. People know me because of my killer performance and my completely liberal reforms, yet dynamic reforms, which revolutionized not only the history, but the fate of United Kingdom. Yeah, there are some foolish people who call me cruel, oppressive, some call me racist, but I don't care. You know what? I just ask them to look up to their own country leaders. They'll get who is cruel, oppressive, and dominating. You know what? You can call me a victor because I am a victor. I was the driving force behind the soldiers of United Kingdom who fought with great zeal and valor against the German Empire and brought back home the cup of victory. So please remember, I am the Winston Churchill. Thank you.
Mr. Churchill, your first question. The British Raj has been accused of amplifying the Bengal famines of 1943 in India, in which at least 3 million people are believed to have died through starvation or poverty. Your actions or lack thereof have been the subject of criticism. What is your say on this?
Thank you so much for the question. I think everybody has been accusing me of that, but that's not the case. I am the prime minister of a very big country like United Kingdom. At that same time when Bengal famine hit India, I was engaged in World War II, and I was the only country battling against the vast, imperialist, cruel, oppressive German Empire. No other country was there to help us out. My mind was completely diverted, and I was fighting for the greater good. And I think that was for the greater good, because of which I was not able to pay much attention. I lacked on that part, but I was very, very busy, very, very diverted for my own people. And as a prime minister, I'm very sure that everybody will put their people, their nation on the top before thinking about the others. And I did the same, because I am a reliable prime minister. I couldn't ditch my people.
Okay, Mr. Churchill, your next question. Churchill has been criticized for advocating the use of chemical weapons primarily against Kurds, Afghans, and the Ottoman troops in World War I. In a memo, he wrote, "I am strongly in favor of using poisoned gas against uncivilized tribes." What makes the use of such weapons necessary in times of war?
I think it's clearly justifiable where United States of America, despite knowing the heinous effects of using the nuclear weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But I would like to clear my stance saying that, yes, I mentioned poisoned gas in my phrase, but that poisoned gas I used to refer to tear gas, not such poisonous gas that would lead to mass killing or mass genocide. I am not America. I am not Donald Trump. I am not those who just kill people. I work for my nation. I work for all. And that is the reason why United Kingdom is still United Kingdom.
Mr. Churchill, your third question. Assuming that your country is going through a sudden economical crisis that is affecting the lives of the citizen of your country, what are some steps that you, as a leader, would take to steer your country out of the situation?
Definitely, it's a very serious problem. Apart from political crisis, apart from ideological crisis, I think economical crisis is the top of all. What is required right now is making more employment opportunities available to people. We are short of resources, and that is why we might look for import more, export more. And as you all know, I'm known for my liberalized policy, and that is the reason I had to leave the Conservative Party and join the Liberal Party, because people there didn't understand my views. People there imposed huge tariffs and taxes on the goods imported from the other countries, and I was the one who reduced all that, because of which my party didn't accept me, and I had to leave it and go to the Liberal Party. And that is why people love me, and they still love me, they still trust me, and I think that they will still believe in me, that I will take them out of this cruel situation. I have believe in myself. Thank you so much.
For the rebuttals, Team Draco may put forth your question.
Thank you, Mr. Churchill. I wish I could say it was nice to see you, but I can't. So first of all, I would like to point out a factual error. The UK was not alone. You had the support of the US and France, the country you just debated. And moving on, upon further investigation about the Bengal famine in 1943, it was found out that the Bengal famine was caused by a shortage, caused by uh, caused by a shortage in food supply, which was actually curbed by the by the UK government. In short, the policy of constructing murdered 3 million innocent Indian people. You asked us to look at our head of state, but unfortunately, you were our head of state at that point of time. So how would you justify that?
Thank you so much for your question, dear participant. If India was going through a tough time, we were going through a tougher time. It was not only the World War II, but it was also the gold standard depression, if you remember, or if you have researched properly, that lasted for almost 10 years. But its repercussions are seen even today. And, Great Depression, the deflation, unemployment, lack of resources, lack of jobs, lack of money, lack of income, all these were the consequences that forced me to take these steps. As a nation, I would definitely look forward for my country, for my people. First, I will put them here. If today I ask you, what will you do in that situation? Will you go and help? I'm not Narendra Modi. I will not go and first I'll distribute the vaccines to the other countries and let my people suffer and die because of oxygen shortage, because of vaccines shortage. I am
Yeah,
Winston
you got
Leonard Spencer Churchill.
and right, and
Team
Narendra
Draco,
Modi
no
does
cross
not.
questioning is allowed.
My bad, sorry.
Team Sirius, you may ask your question.
Thank you so much. My question to Winston Churchill is that a lot of people regard you as a leader that was just at the right place at the right time because you were a leader during a world war. You have completely destroyed your credibility by your advocacy for disastrous campaigns in World War I, for destroying the British economy, for your comments on Gandhi. And the only reason why people think you are as great as you are is solely because of the fact that Hitler was alive during your time. People say that you have had a very disturbing political career before you were elected as prime minister. So my question to you is that do you really think you would be in the position that you are now had Hitler not existed and had you not been alive during the time of the World War?
Do you really think that a person is dependent for you being alive? I don't think that. I do not consider Hitler to be even a single percent of me being alive at that time, or me getting my popularity or my position or my prestige or my power. Yes, I failed at times. I'm a human. We all fail at times. But what I said, we all learn from failure. My common phrase is that even if you are going through hell, go through it, because once you will cross it, you'll see the doors of heaven in front of you. People do hate me, people do love me, they pride me, they honor me, and I am happy with that. If you have some people who hate you, you have people who love you too. Think of the positive side. Talking about the comments on the Gandhi, you can even think about your own Indian nationalist leaders. If I don't want to name, but I think everybody knows, not everybody loves everyone. Even Subhash Chandra Bose ji, he too opposed Gandhian views, and I too opposed Gandhian views. What's wrong with that? You don't love me, I don't love you. Is there any problem? I don't think it. But others love me, others love you. I think on the positive and bright side. Thank you so much.
And these are my own nationalist leader. I'm in Delhi, so that seems
Team
like
Sirius, no cross questioning is allowed. Thank you, Team Lupus. Now we will move on to the next personality.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have Xi Jinping being represented by Team Auriga. Team Auriga.
A true Leninist, a cold-hearted and fearless leader as they call me. I am Xi Jinping, the supreme leader of China, the head of the Communist Party of China that has stood strong for 100 years, the chairman of the Central Military Committee, and the president of the People's Republic of China. Good morning to all the dignitaries present here. My story is one of persistence, survival, and as my critics like to call ruthless politics. I command a position of respect in this world by most, and I am undeterred by the threats of those who have a Diet Coke button on their office tables. People who threaten to use nuclear weapons like they hadn't already, and people who show poor judgment and poor sense of wisdom. My party has launched the biggest anti-corruption campaign in this world that has taken out about more than a million who plagued my dear motherland. Hence, here I am standing strong for indefinite years, serving my motherland.
Mr. Xi Jinping, your first question. Since 2014, the Chinese government, under the direction of the Chinese Communist Party, has been accused of pursuing detention policies against Uyghurs and other ethnic and religious minorities. As many as 1 million Uyghurs have been detained in internment camps without any legal process available to them. What is your reasoning behind this policy?
Our nation does not believe in threatening and oppression to any sort of minorities or any sort of community. It is just a decisive measure we need to take to keep the integrity and sovereignty of our country at par.
Your second question. The rise of Chinese Communist Party General Secretary Xi Jinping in power has been marked with a noticeable increase in Chinese territorial conflicts. China has had both land and maritime territorial disputes with 15 other countries in Asia and has hence been accused of following expansionist policies. How do you defend yourself against these allegations?
A little about my early life. My dad, Xi Zhonghong, was a Chinese revolutionary, and he was put in jail under the regime of General Mao. See, at that point of time, I was supposed to go to exile, and I lived in a barren cave for years and years. That time made me a strong man. Those troubled times made me a determined man to take my country to glory. And I'm not going to accept anybody's threats or allegations when it comes to my country's sovereignty, because I am not going to trade any of my land or any of my nation's pride for anyone else's needs or their politics. Yeah.
Mr. Jinping, your third question. The COVID-19 pandemic originated in your country. If some similar outbreak was to occur in the future, with the experience and power that you have now, how would you deal with the crisis in its initial stages?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, we have seen a lot of devastating pandemics through the years, from SARS virus to the COVID-19 virus. We have used Chinese medicine and state-of-the-art technology and social reforms to keep people in their homes, to keep the COVID virus at par, and we have taken a lot of lessons from this particular national emergency. We have designed our national disaster response team accordingly, and yeah, we have also shown interest in collaborating with other nations while they struggle for the COVID-19 virus, and we look at it as a global pandemic, and we do not appreciate people calling it the Chinese virus or using racist comments like that, as one of our white supremacist leaders here just did a couple of minutes ago. Thank you.
Participants who wish to ask questions, please write LM in the chats now. Team Lupus, you may ask your question.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the recognition. So, Sir Xi Jinping, I'm speaking to a man who is known for committing mass genocide. It's okay. China's rapidly increasing carbon emission rates and no policies for a slowdown show that you have no regard for the concerning state of the planet's future. Why are you prioritizing your country's economic progress over climate change? One more thing, ask why you have not planned any effective policies and budgetary plans to control climate change. Now, don't haggle on these emission rates because the per capita income of China is quite less than many developing countries. So what's your take on this? Is your country more important than the entire world, or is your country's progress more important than the climate change?
Well, I would like to start addressing your whole thing by showing my surprise to your comment about genocide, that coming from Winston Churchill, who let 3 million people die in India, is quite a thing. Also, to address your question about our industrial policies and our concern for the environment, we have through the years we have taken necessary measures to keep the pollution at par. Also, I would like to tell you that our developing nation is responsible for managing more waste than any other nation is. Recently, when we stopped taking in waste from the USA had a big waste problem. And I think regarding the emissions, we have developed more economic zones, more trade opportunities in our nation for multinational agencies, for other countries, and for everybody who strives to achieve more. So I think, yeah, also our nation has repeatedly been challenged in many aspects, like military might. People have threatened us in the South China Sea. Then we have had India, who has been a real problem on our boundaries. Then USA has always been threatening us with nuclear strikes. And we just feel that as a deterrent for all this, we also need sufficient budget allocation to deal with these issues as well. We do not disregard the need for environmental protection, but at the same time, we have other issues. And as a communist nation, we think we have stood strong for 100 years, and we'll keep on doing that for as long as I'm in power. Thank you.
Team Andromeda, you may ask your question.
Well, everyone, Donald Trump is a racist. Donald Trump kills people. Well, you know one thing, CNN, it puts up a lot of fake propagandas against me. But I didn't know CNN had its headquarters in Hill for the Dead people too. Never mind, going on to the next question for Xi Jinping. Well, why did you repeatedly refuse? If you were fair from your part, if you don't want people to call it a Chinese virus, why did you repeatedly refuse the World Health Organization to investigate the origins of COVID-19? Thank you.
Mr. Trump, you have been accused of hoarding vaccines in a time of major distress in this world. And your concern for the economy over the concern for life of people amuses people and disgusts me personally. Moving on to your question, the UN has established a report that it is not the Chinese virus. We do not wish to fuel any such conspiracy theories that make big media houses sell their news better. Also, I feel, Mr. Trump, when it comes to your nation, you should really think about yourself and the sovereignty of USA, because you have gone through 2 impeachments after doing everything you could for your nation. As you say, it must be quite painful to go through that process. Also, as the head of the Communist Party of China and the president of the People's Republic of China, I stand strong over a term of 10 plus years, and innumerable other years in politics and to service to my motherland. And I don't feel that China is answerable, or China needs to bow to any other power in the nation, in the world, for any reason whatsoever.
Both of the impeachment were acquitted.
Andromeda, questioning is not allowed.
That's your
Thank you, Xi Jinping.
institutional machinery. Thank you.
Judges, please note that team number 3, Team Phoenix, has joined the meeting and we will be giving them a second chance. Team Phoenix, are you here? Team Phoenix, you are not audible or visible.
Okay, so I'm visible now?
You're audible but not visible.
There are network issues on my room.
It's okay, you can speak. Team Phoenix will be representing Benito Mussolini. Phoenix, your first question is. I'm so sorry, Phoenix, you can go ahead with your speech.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm really sorry, everyone. Okay. The fighters of land, sea, and air, black shirts of the revolution and of the legions, men and women of Italy, of the empire, and of the kingdom of Albania, listen. The hour destined by fate is surrounding for us. The hour of irrevocable decision has come. A declaration of war has already been handed to the ambassadors of Great Britain and France. We take the field against the plutocratic and reactionary democracies who always have blocked the march and frequently plotted against the existence of the Italian Empire. Several decades of recent history may be summarized in these words: phrases, promises, threats of blackmail, and finally, crowning that ignoble office edifice of League of Nations of 52 nations, our conscience is absolutely clear. With you, the entire world is witness that the Italy of fascism has done everything humanly possible to avoid the tempest that envelops Europe, but all in vain. It would have suffered to revise treaties, to adapt them to charging requirements vital to nations, and not consider them untouchable for eternity. It would have sufficed not to begin the stupid policy of guarantees which proved particularly deadly for those who accepted them. It would have suffered not to reject the proposal of the Führer Hitler, which made last October 6 the campaign in Poland ended. Thank you.
Mr. Mussolini, your first question. During World War II, a military alliance was formed between fascist Italy and Nazi Germany called the Pact of Steel. During this period, a number of anti-Semitic laws were passed in Italy, even though the small Jewish community in Italy was well assimilated in the culture. It is speculated that these laws were passed only to appease Nazi Germany. How will you justify the passing of these laws?
Okay, that's a very good question. I would like to say that when you collaborate, you have to listen to the other parties as well, you know. And if Hitler had such a great problem with the Jewish and we were collaborating with them, it was our, you know, it was our responsibility to adhere to him, to listen to him, and to, you know, actually support him. We were together, so we stand united. And what his is ours. So yes, there was a lot of Semitic wars happen, and yes, we too didn't support the Jewish.
Your second question is, Italy's army performed disastrously during World War II. Mussolini had not entered World War II until June 1940, by which time his Nazi Germany allies had already swept through much of Europe. It soon became apparent that Italy lacked adequate military equipment. Would you take the blame for Italy's military failures, or would you defend yourself against them?
Okay, so yeah, we have suffered a lot during the World War One, and yes, there was a lot of loss that happened in Italy, and that was the reason for the World War Two also, that we were fighting with Germany, with Nazis. Yes, there was a lot of military failure, but I think I take the responsibility, not entirely, but partially, yes. There was military failure from our side, but I don't think we lacked any military or the wars that we fought. But up to date, they were, they to support all they sacrificed our nation, and I said, for the military with their vigor, with their power. I think they come back.
Masulini, please note you are not properly audible. Your third question is, if you were an influential world leader in the current timeline and not in the early mid-20th century, what, according to you, would be the greatest problem the world is facing, and what would be some steps that you would take to combat it? Team Phoenix, please unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry for that. I think the prime problem of the prime concern that this world is facing is air pollution and the pollution related problems like climate change, floods, droughts, and the many things like I think my prime concern would be for these problems and keeping wars and all other things at bay. I would like to implement policies and laws that would, save the world. In fact, not only our country but the world from the ill effects of pollution. And I would like to, I would like that people use cycles more than motor vehicles, and and I will reduce the waste generated from the factories, smoke. I will try to reduce these things. And yes, my and these during COVID times when you saw that the world was such at great loss of medical equipments and the doctors, the proper facilities given to people. I would love to provide them with that. I would keep the money. I will reduce the money for which were used for military, and I will use the money for these kinds of social welfare activities.
Participants, the rebuttals are now open. Team Sirius, you may ask your question.
Thank you so much for the recognition. My question to Mr. Mussolini is the fact that you ensured that there was a dictatorship in your country during that time. I guess considering the fact that it was during the time of world wars, I can let that go. But something that I do want to bring attention to is the fact that you ensured that women in your society, who first of all did not have the necessary means to make political parties or to be at par with you, however, you ensured that even before it got to that stage, they were treated like cats and dogs. And I think that's kind of ironic because you were shot by an Irish woman to death along with your wife. Hopefully that didn't hurt. But my question to you is, why did you feel the need to have that sort of patriarchy when you knew women could not at that time be in a position to come to be in a political party or give you any sort of competition? Why did you feel the need to do that?
Okay, that's a very good question. I respect that. I feel that, okay, that time, not only me, I think the world was not considering women as at par with men. Yes, I didn't give the women their rights in the political parties, but I never refused them. I did not, come personally to them and say that you can't participate, you can't, go to political parties. I didn't say that. I think women, their own mindset was somewhere or the other lacking. And I feel in terms of power, yes, men are more powerful than women in terms of power. I'm not talking about mental strength. I'm not talking about abilities, but I feel that in mental strength, and yes, as we know that we were, okay, as you know, we were in a war. So I feel that men was more powerful than women. So yes, I did not admit them in the political parties, but I did not refuse them personally. If they would like to do it, they could.
Team Andromeda, you may ask your question.
Hello, Benito Mussolini. So did you ally with Hitler because you were scared of him, or you were just hungry for power?
I think I allied with him due to the Treaty of Versailles. Not only Germany, but Italy suffered a lot due to the Treaty of Versailles. We were deprived of everything. We did not get what we wanted. Although we participated in the war equally, we fought. We gave every possible thing we could to the wars, but still we did not get our share. And that was a prime reason, in fact, the only reason we joined the Nazis, because they were also very unsatisfied with the Treaty of Versailles. We joined with them because we both feel that we were not adequately got what we should have. And everyone in the world knows that Treaty of Versailles was so partial for the Britain powers, for the USA, for Britain. We did not get our shares, and that was the only reason we collided. We, in fact, collaborated with the Nazis.
Thank you, Mr. Mussolini. That was the last question of Cynosure 2021. Congratulations to all the participants for putting up a spectacular show and answering each challenging question with utmost confidence and eloquence, which is the essence of Cynosure. Before we conclude, I would like to invite our eminent judges to address us with their valuable insights. Mr. Harsh Sinha, please come forward and address the audience.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible. You can address us.
Okay, yeah, it was a very unique competition for me, first of its kind, and I congratulate the LFS Quantum team for coming up with such a competition. A few suggestions. Overall, there was a lot of enthusiasm among the participants, and a few tips for the people who organized. Probably if you had made all the politicians of the same or contemporary, it would have been better, rather than have 3 historical and 5 contemporary. That would have been much fairer ground. And yes, because this led to some people talking in different time. Like we heard Harry Truman probably talking about era of Trump. So that was a bit discordant to hear. Otherwise, I enjoyed the competition, and good luck to the participants. Let's see who wins.
Thank you, sir. We will surely adhere to the suggestions put forward with you in the future. Next, can we please have Ms. Koyesha Mukherjee?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Firstly, thank you to LFS for inviting me today. It has been a delightful morning joining in from London around 5 a.m. to watch this amazing show put up by all the participants. It clearly shows all the passion, enthusiasm, and effort that each and every participant has put into presenting themselves today, thoroughly researched and very confident into whatever they presented and rebutted. Amazing presentation and a really creative and innovative concept, actually. So it's a very different event and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And good luck to all the participants. And I would also echo what my co-judge just mentioned. It probably would be better to, for the next time, just for scope of improvement, to have the characters all from the same kind of timeline instead of having a mix of historical characters as well as contemporary characters. So that's just to ensure parity and consistency as to how this is being organized and presented. But overall, this was a really thrilling and amazing show put up by everyone. So thank you so much for inviting and good luck to everyone.
Thank you so much, Ms. Koesha, for your valuable insights. Next, can I please have Mrs. Swarnalata Gopal Krishnan?
Good afternoon, all. And it was an awesome performance. Congratulations to all the participants and to the organizers. It is very well organized, and the child who was, was the MC. She did a wonderful job. All of you did. Heading a school myself, while watching you speak, I was thinking, maybe I should try this particular event in my school too. And again, a hearty congratulations to all of you. I think all of you here today are winners, and you are all very confident. Thank you so much and all the best.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Gopal Krishnan. Is Mr. Harsh Sinha in the meeting?
Yeah, hi.
Yes, Mr. Sinha, if you could address the audience.
Hi there. Firstly, it was great. Listening to all the participants speak. It was an honor to be invited by LFS. Always feels good to reconnect with schools at home. To be honest, I don't have a lot of feedback to give, in the sense that all the students who are participating, they're already so confident, they're already so good at speaking out, and it's lovely to see them come up and speak in these creative events. Like I said, I had to wake up at 5 a.m. As well to attend this meeting, and it's been a pleasure. And yeah, I look forward to seeing how everyone does in the future as well.
Thank you, Mr. Sinha. I'm sure all of us will imbibe the much needed takeaways from the advice and observations of the judges. To everyone present here, it gives me immense pleasure to propose the vote of thanks for Cynosure 2021. I would like to thank our principal, Sister Hilda D'Souza, for providing an ingenious platform to students to explore their skills, challenge themselves, and strive to excel in their desired endeavors. I would like to express my gratitude to the eminent judges of Cynosure for taking out their valuable time to join Little Flower School in identifying and nurturing young talent. The exciting vision of Cynosure would have been incomplete without the incessant guidance of our teachers and the valuable inputs and hard work of all students and staff in charge of organizing this event, whose undaunting effort converted the dream of this event into an actuality. To all the participating schools, their principals, their teachers in charge, and the students, thank you for enthusiastically responding to LFS's call to this journey on this extraordinary path in times of unprecedented crisis. On behalf of my school, I express my admiration and appreciation and hope that you will come forward in the future. Ultimately, thank you to the audience for gracing this event with your presence.